What is up, YouTube? It's Onion Bomb here. Welcome back to another Honkaiimpact third reaction video. Today we are still working on the all the animation lore playlist that was sent to me a while ago at this point. And we're gonna still stick to this today. However, there is some other things to check out, like the one trailer playlist I watched before this. I got updated with a few things, and that might be next Honkai video, something like that. But for right now, we are still sticking with some of these here. Going through the lore, learning some interesting stuff as well. But the last few have been kind of like more broad. Like they had about like Star Rail and how it's connected to Star Impact Third, but there has been some things dropped a few times. However, I just want to recognize this because I was a little late on getting into some comments last time, but Durandal, I kept accidentally saying, or not accidentally saying, I kept saying that she was a Kiana clone when she actually was the original Kiana. Like, she's where they're getting the clones from, or like that she's the OG. So I that's also something I didn't know. But that is actually almost even crazier. I say so. So yeah, my shock of it is still valid, but that is just something that I didn't know. So yeah, we are going to be watching, as you can see, definitely a decent. We have like 4 Homu Labs videos in a row here, and then and I believe if my projections are correct, I think we're going to get to this Potato Almanac video today, and then we'll have this one for next time. So I guess so, if that's something, I'm not sure for a fact, but yeah, what we got first? We got, who is the will of the Honkai? Or will of Honkai? The Honkai God explained. Will Smith? Fresh Prince brother and West Honkai, born in Sea of Quanta, born and raised on a then a couple of beasts that were up to no good started making
The will of the Honkai is a formless esoteric entity that resides in its own plane of existence and has a direct link with the imaginary tree that allows it to control the amount of Honkai energy that comes from the imaginary space into the base reality. Welcome to the second video in the Honkai Lore Explained video series. Today we will take a look at the mysterious entity referred to as the Wheel of the Honkai, and also talk about the nature of the Honkai energy in the base reality. If you're interested in learning more about the Honkai, you can check out my previous video about the origins of the Honkai energy and the imaginary tree. The link
I'm not sure if these are the same videos in the series, or because we have watched a few Homo Lads videos last time, so I'm just going with what's on the
in the description. Now, without further ado, let's dive into the video. In the early parts of the game, we are told that Honkai is a mysterious phenomenon of unknown origins that happens to rise with the human civilization and grows stronger as the technology becomes more advanced. And this happens for a reason. As I mentioned in the previous video, Honkai is energy that is leaking from the imaginary tree. In its nature, it's a highly dangerous entropic energy that can cause natural disasters, diseases, and can manifest itself in many forms. One of those forms are the Honkai beasts. They are silicon-based life forms that embody the direct manifestation of the Honkai and can form in places with high Honkai energy concentration. Zombies, as the name suggests, they are corpses that are corrupted by the Honkai and act like mindless creatures enforcing its will. It's important to note that the game refers to zombies in Chapter 2 as corpses brought back to life by the Honkai, but through the game we can also observe zombification as a state that can happen after a human being is exposed to Honkai energy and becomes infected. As we can see in Chapter 9, when Tesla injects herself with a lethal dose of Honkai to test the Spear of Destiny, in her vision she saw herself transcending the zombie and becoming a mighty Honkai beast. So we can assume that the zombified state can both apply to corpses brought back to life and infected by the Honkai, and as a stage a corrupted organism goes when transforming into a Honkai beast. This part is a bit confusing because MiHoYo never really go in depth in explaining this process. And also some definitions, such as the one they gave in chapter 2, might be outdated. But to make it simpler for you to understand, think of it like this. If it's a creature with very distinct animalic or alien features, it's a Honkai beast. And if it's a mindless, human-like creature, it's a zombie. Another form that the Honkai can take is the form of the subscribe button. See the red button below the video that says subscribe?
Hey, mine's
That's
great.
the Honkai.
I finally hit
the
the
button
sub.
to eliminate it. So don't hesitate. Press that subscribe button and be the hero that defeats the Honkai. Because Honkai is a form of energy, it can also be harnessed. In the previous era, humans had the technology to convert Honkai energy into normal energy to ensure that it could be safely used by anyone. Unfortunately, in the current era, this technology is not available and Honkai energy is used only in controlled mediums. Since it's a highly dangerous energy that can infect anybody that has a low Honkai resistance, its usage is very limited. Think of it as some sort of
I wasn't ready for that background. It looked like you just looked right at me.
Nuclear energy, but much more dangerous. The only thing that could handle it are special power plants designed to contain it, like the Babylon Towers, where Sirin was experimented on. Anti-Entropy uses it to power their mechs, Shixal uses it to create artificial stigmata that they implant in humans with higher Honkai resistance to create Valkyries and for their weapons and battle suits, and Word Serpent uses technology from the previous era to safely combat the radiations. As far as we know, Honkai has two ways to enter base reality from the imaginary tree. One is through Hersher cores, specialized faucets that form inside the body of a Hersher that serve as a link with the imaginary space and can draw out the Honkai energy. And the second one, and most common, is through a dimensional leakage or dimensional bleed. We learn in chapter 25EX that the entity known as the Wheel of the Honkai has control over that process. Knowing this, we can assume that the amount of Honkai energy present in our world is always controlled by a wheel. This may also explain why Honkai rises with humanity's advancement. In my previous video, I explained how the Honkai energy is used to test the civilizations on the imaginary tree. Well, in the same light, the Wheel of the Honkai is the enforcer of the said test. There's also one thing that I want to make clear, and that's the fact that the Wheel of the Honkai and the Hersher of the End that we see in the previous era are not the same entity.
Thanks, Captain Obvious.
But you'd be surprised to find out how many people believe this misconception. The Wheel of the Honkai is a formless entity that resides in its own plane of existence and has a direct link with the imaginary tree that allows it to control the amount of Honkai energy that comes from the imaginary space into the base reality. On the other hand, the Hersher of the End is the final weapon of the Honkai, a Hersher so powerful that when it arrives, no civilization stands a chance against it. Even if the Hersher of the End is a powerful entity that has full control over the Honkai energy, it's still a Hersher at the end of the day. It has a physical form and can be damaged. We know this because Kevin managed to knock her out for a few hours when they fought on the moon in the previous era. The existence of the Wheel of the Honkai was rumored and theorized for many years, but it was never confirmed until the second eruption in the year 2000 when it came into direct contact with Sirin and Ado. We do not know yet if this entity that they came into contact with is a localized form of the Wheel of the Honkai that only observes one base reality and acts based on the changes and evolution of the civilizations within it, or if it's a consistent force across all the branches of the imaginary tree. But from these encounters and what we learned from the later chapters of the game, we know that the Wheel of the Honkai has no direct way of interfering with the world. all it can do is progress the evolution of the Honkai in the base reality by releasing more Honkai energy from the imaginary space, but even this process has certain limitations. We can see this very clear in chapter 25 EX when Ado manages to re-establish a connection with it. For a very long time, the will of the Honkai seemed like this powerful godlike being that could wipe us all out whenever it wants. But Ado states in chapter 25 EX that it might not be the case. It has the knowledge, but it seems to lack the power to do so at the moment. We do not know why or what that means. Maybe it is just not that powerful and we interpreted its meaning wrong. Maybe it's restrained by some rules and cannot exercise the full extent of its power, but it's clearly bothered by Kevin and Project Stigma, hence why it made a deal with Ado. The will of the Honkai seems to also have some kind of goal of its own, or at least it's aware of some deterrents that can cause some problems for its goal and is trying to prevent them by making a deal with Ado and allowing him to cut 500 years worth of time from the base reality branch of the imaginary tree. Most likely, as I previously said, its limitations have something to do with the test to determine if a civilization is worthy of receiving continuous support from the imaginary tree. This also tells us that the will of the Honkai has to play by some kind of rules and it's not necessarily an omnipotent force. To a certain degree, of course. It is also shown that the will of the Honkai possesses an almost limitless amount of knowledge regarding the imaginary tree, the multiverse, and the existence itself. During the second eruption, when Ado comes into contact with it for the first time, the will of the Honkai overloads his brain with so much knowledge that he literally cannot handle it. That is also when Ado realizes that the entity before him is truly a god compared to him. A very interesting prospect brought up by Ado in his dialogue with Durandal in chapter 27 is the fact that from the perspective of the will of the Honkai, which is basically in very simple terms self-aware Honkai energy, creating Hershers represents the ultimate act of freedom, hinting at the fact that Hershers are the ultimate form the Honkai can take and hinting that humanity is a necessary cage that helps solidify the Honkai.
That they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
This leaves room to interpret that the Honkai and humanity have a much closer relationship than people might have thought, implying that the civilization is basically some kind of storage for the Honkai that allows it to manifest in its truest form. I think that this is a very fascinating idea that will be further explored in the story as we progress and will play a major role when we will uncover more about its true nature. Oh, and speaking of Hershers, the will of the Honkai can also choose a person to become a Hersher, but more on that in the next video exclusively dedicated to them. So until then, stay safe and see you guys next time.
I thought I recognized that thumbnail. So that video is coming up, the part 3. And yeah, that was where we left off last time, part 1, the imaginary tree. There is something in between.
Okay, so
it looks like interesting facts about Silverwing Bronya based on my gacha luck. Interesting. That last one was pretty interesting. Well, very interesting lore. Yeah, the difference about the Honkai, like the zombies and the beasts. Cause at first I was like a little, cause like at first for a while ago I was like, you know, like when they said zombies, like zombies in Honkai, but that's what they call kind of like the zombified state of, you know, the Honkai corpse things, and then there's the Honkai beast. So interesting, and then like to hear like the will of the Honkai, very interesting stuff. Yeah, lost a lot of information, splendid lore. Let's see what the interesting facts about Bronya.
Here's what we're gonna do. Since Bronya is one of my favorite characters, I wanted to do something special and record while I am pulling for her. The issue is that I'm one of the most boring people in existence. I know that people come to this channel for the lore, not me.
Oh.
This is the part in which you leave a comment saying that is not true. So I've been thinking that I
Yeah,
need
that's
something
not
to
true.
bait people into what? I need something to provide some extra value to the content and make it more entertaining. So here's my idea. For each 10 pull in which I don't get Silver Wing, I will share one fact about Bronya.
Okay.
I've done this kind of video in the past for Elysia and Mobius, but this time I will be sharing some trivia about Bronya from the last 8 years that we don't know much about. This way, I can combine both the pulling session and maybe help you learn something new about adult Bronya and APHO. Before we begin, you might ask what happens if I get Bronya early? Well, I'm glad you asked. No matter what, I will do a minimum of 60 pulls in order to get a Stigmata box. So, regardless if I get her or not, I will give out at least 5 facts. Oh, and if I consume all my crystals and I don't get her, then I'm... As you can see, I have some remaining cards, so we are gonna do some singles and get rid of those, and after that I'm gonna do normal temples. Here we go.
Alright, pulling time. We got the gotcha. Oh.
Okay, that's the wrong Bronya. I need a grown-up version, if you would.
That's another Wolf's Dawn. That's 2, or that says material?
That's not what I wanted. If you paid close attention to the story of APHO2, I'm sure that you already know, but Bronya is not the actual squad leader of Squad 2. She was assigned the position of acting squad leader by Teresa, since the actual squad leader is on another mission. In fact, Bronya is completely retired from Shixel at this point. She occasionally comes back when there is an emergency and she is needed, just like now. Not much is known about the actual squad leader. The only fact that we know about is that she has a bad personality. Some people theorize that she might be Sinmal or Sele, and the bad personality part comes from Veliona.
Interesting.
There are 4 anti-Honkai squads in total. Mei, Adam and Carol are squad 3, Bronya, Timido and Lyle are squad 2, with the real squad leader being on mission, and this means that there are 2 more squads left. It is mentioned that squad 1 is also on their way to Saint Fontaine, so we are guaranteed to see at least 1 more squad sometime in the future. Come on, please. Oh, come on. I knew I had a bad feeling about this. Bronya has grown a lot in the past 8 years. And not just in the way you're just thinking about right now.
No?
Where did all this booba come from?
It was revealed that
That's
Silverwing
not what I was
is
thinking.
18 centimeters taller than her younger version. She also changed a great deal personality-wise. Even though she was always proper and serious, now she displays a motherly aura when around her squad members, doing everything she can to protect them. It is stated that she started to have a much more simple and relaxed view on herself and the world after the Great Eruption, enjoying the simple things in life and doing what she likes. She freed herself from the shackles of a soldier that is constantly fighting, and now she is walking her own path. She even stopped referring to herself as the Bronya and started to use the I pronoun, even though she occasionally slips back.
Oh, so yeah,
There
okay,
goes
so,
nothing.
okay, she started using that. I got the Bronya. I caught some of the things she, and so like the Bronya. Interesting. I kind of liked that. It was funny.
Okay, here's another fact. After the Honkai has been sealed on the moon, Bronya started working at ET Studios under Welt and later became a game producer and developed the studio's first game, Arahato. Some of you may recognize Arahato from the Second Eruption manga. It was a mecha anime series made by Welt back in the days in order to gather fundings for AE. Unfortunately, even though the game had a small but passionate fanbase, it never met the sales criteria and was considered a failure. Bronya even planned to release an official art book of the game, but due to it not meeting the sales criteria, it was postponed indefinitely. You can clearly see her passion for making games during the story of APHO2, when she often gets distracted and loses all the perception of the surrounding area while writing down game ideas.
Hey, you should make a game about your life and make it like a gotcha, bring people in. Get it? Because that's Honkai.
Silverwing.
Imagine they did like a meta though. Like
Run
she made
Bronya
Honkai.
again. God damn it. Even though she's no longer the Hersher of reason, it seems like Bronya never lost her passion for motorcycles. It is said that after she finishes working, she puts on her helmet made by Dr. Tesla and hops onto her bike to escape to a place not far away. In her free time, she's also a racer on the rise. In fact, she might have some speed-related problems. During a conversation from APHO2, we found out that her driver license was suspended multiple times because she got caught going too fast. I guess all those memes were real after all.
Speedy. This is it, I'm feeling it. This is it. Silver wing. This is it. That's it. Nope. I lied. I fibbed.
Okay, here's another fact. Okay, so this is more of a small theory rather than a fact, so please keep that in mind. Cele is one of the main characters from the story that we do not know anything about in APHO. The only reference to her is the small notebook that Bronya is carrying around to write down her ideas. The notebook is blue and has a butterfly-themed cover that represents Cele. We can see a similar design in chapter 11 when Bronya goes into the Sea of Quanta and reunites with Cele after many years. But the question begs, what happened to Cele? Well, believe it or not, we have some hints in the dorms. Yes, you heard me right, in the dorms. If you put Silverwing and Starchasm Nix in the dorm together, they have a small interaction. Veliona recognizes adult Bronya, and because she doesn't know that she is from the future, she wonders from which bubble universe does Bronya come from. But the subtle hint is in Bronya's reaction. She doesn't say anything other than Cele's name. She seems very quiet and reserved. In her other interactions with Kiana and Carol, she's much more talkative. It's almost like something happened to Cele during the main story and she and Bronya are separated again.
Dang.
I found this interaction very sus. It might be a stretch, sure, but let's be open and keep this possibility in mind. At the end of the day, it's MiHoYo. They would do anything to make us suffer. Let's see.
Alright. Oh, why I see these?
I don't know what I expected. What if I told you that Bronya actually makes a game based on APHO? You might not know this because MiHoYo never brought it on the global YouTube channel, but in the beginning of the 5.4 developer livestream for the CN, we got a little animation in which Bronya presents her new game based on APHO after the events in the Saint Fontaine are over. Pretty cool, huh?
Play flop? Dang.
哟，大块头，你的造型还挺酷炫的。我决定了，把你做到下一款游戏里去，在我拆掉你之后。
Okay, this is the last temple. Let's see this. Come on. Silvery.
There it is.
Finally, she's home. I don't have to spend money on her.
Let's go.
Thank you. Thank you all for watching, and please let me know if you want to see me do more videos like this. Next will be the third and last part in my Honkai lore explained trilogy about the Herschers. So, stay safe, have a nice day, and see you all soon.
That was a fun video. That was a fun video. Seeing like the gotcha form of this game in action as well. Hey, my luck could I mean, I get weirdly lucky in like stuff like that, but like not in the areas that like I need to be like just like random stuff. But you know, if I make any sort of sports parlay, or you can just bet you that's not gonna hit. But yeah, that was a great video. And some interesting facts about Bronya. I didn't know she made like a game in universe. And yeah, learning about like after like this, I guess the older Bronya. What's the name? Wing. Interesting. But so this is the third part of that 3-part he said. So this is part 2, the first video, and part 1 was at the end of the last video. So everything we know about Herschers. Everything.
Herschers are the ultimate manifestation of the Honkai. Powerful beings that awaken when a Herrscher core solidifies or is manually implanted inside the body of a vessel. A vessel must be someone with extremely high Honkai resistance to withstand the large amount of Honkai energy needed to form a core. Herschers are capable of bending the physical laws and represent the greatest threat imposed by the Honkai. If left unchecked, a Herrscher has the power to wipe out human civilization.
That is a pretty tough thing to leave unchecked.
Hello beautiful people, today we are talking about the biggest threat a civilization could face. Herschers. If you're interested in learning more about the Honkai, after you finish this video you can go watch the previous parts of this series dedicated to explaining everything we know about the Honkai. The first part covers the origins of Honkai and the imaginary tree, the second one covers everything we know about the Wheel of Honkai, and this is the third part about the Herschers. Links are down in the description. Anyhow, let's get back to the main topic. Herschers.
Is that a cabbage?
Who are they? How do they appear? What's their purpose? And most importantly, why is your wallet empty every time a new one appears?
I'm okay with the events that are unfolding currently. That's okay.
To better understand what they are and how their power works, it's necessary to go back to the word's roots. Herrscher is the German word for ruler, sovereign or monarch. Herrscher of the void, Herrscher of thunder, Herrscher of reason. Their names are meant to represent that they are absolute rulers over their respective ability or whatever concept is tied to their core. As far as we know, Herschers can form in multiple ways. Usually, a Herrscher awakens when a host is exposed to a large amount of Honkai energy and a Herrscher core solidifies inside their bodies. The best example of this is Sirin, who awakened as a Herrscher after she absorbed the Honkai energy from the Honkai reactors inside the Babylon towers. She did not become a Herrscher because Ado experimented on her. This is false and a misconception I see a lot. Ado's purpose was to create artificial stigmata for the Valkyries, not to create Herschers. Sirin became a Herrscher because of her high Honkai adaptability and because the Wheel of Honkai guided her to absorb the Honkai energy from the Honkai reactors inside the tower. The experiments she has gone through have nothing to do with her being a Herrscher, besides the fact that they cemented a deep hatred towards humankind inside her that fueled her desire for revenge. Another way is by artificially implanting a Herrscher core through surgery or other means. Examples of these are Mei and Wendy. It is important to note that a Herrscher core cannot be implanted randomly in anybody. Much like natural Herrschers, the vessel in which the Herrscher core is implanted needs to have high Honkai adaptability. Otherwise, the vast amount of energy will infect and kill its host. This leads me to another misconception I often hear, and that is the fact that a gem is an inferior version of a Herrscher core. That is a false perception that is so deeply ingrained in the collective mentality of the Honkai community that even the Honkaiimpact 3rd wiki page shows this information wrong. Then again, they show a lot of informations wrong. So let me end all the debates and finally give you a clear answer. What's the difference between a gem and a Herrscher core? Well, in simple terms, absolutely nothing. Yeah, you heard me right, there's absolutely no difference between a core and a gem. Actually, there are a few differences, but they are not what you might be thinking of. As we all know, a Herrscher core is the source of power for a Herrscher, and it's named after the power that the respective Herrscher controls. They also serve as faucets that draw out Honkai energy from the imaginary space. Herrscher gems, on the other hand, are exactly the same, but they were directly given to Sirin by the Wheel of Honkai during the second eruption. There is no hint in any Honkaiimpact 3rd related material, external or not, that gems would be an inferior versions of the cores. This misconception might have emerged because some characters that had gems implanted in them, such as Wendy and pre-chapter 17 Mei, seemed weaker than the other Herrschers that had proper cores. But that is not because they had a gem, it's because they did not have fully mastered their powers yet. When Mei reawakens as the Herrscher of Thunder, Kevin tells her that the Gem of Conquest inside Kiana will dissolve and reform as a core inside Mei. This happens because a vessel forms a link with the imaginary tree when they become a Herrscher. So, Mei was connected to the imaginary tree through the Gem of Conquest, regardless if she had the gem in her possession or not. The gem reforming as a core inside Mei further shows that there is no inherent difference between the two. It's called a core now because it reappeared inside Mei's body, not because it became stronger. Another example would be Kiana herself. She doesn't have the core of fire. She got her powers from the Gem of Haste. And as we all can see, the Gem of Haste did not evolve into a core at any point. It's still the Gem of Haste, and Kiana is not weaker because of that.
Awesome. Banger.
So, a
Even
quick
as B-roll.
recap. There is no inherent difference between a Herrscher core and the 4 gems given to Sirin by the Wheel of Honkai. The 4 gems were actually named by the Honkai itself. That's why they are called gems. This does not imply that they are weaker than regular cores. Now, have you ever wished that you could become a Herrscher? Well, seek no more. Right now you can become the Herrscher of Subscribe. All you have to do is give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. It takes a really long time and effort to make these videos, and I would greatly appreciate if you'd consider subscribing. So, don't waste any time. Become the Herrscher of Subscribe right now. An interesting aspect of the current era Herrscher cores is the fact that unlike their previous era counterparts, they are considered to be alive. We learn in chapter 26 that the current era Herrscher cores can change their properties even after they are removed from the body of a Herrscher. This implies that the core can be passed to another vessel after a Herrscher is killed or the core is removed. In the previous era, such a thing was impossible due to the nature of the singularity formed inside the core. Note that singularity is a fancy term that describes the actual point in a Herrscher core that draws out the Honkai energy from the imaginary space. Dr. May created the Divine Keys with the previous era Hersher cores because they couldn't be passed to another person like in the current era. So
wait. Just quick. Just sorry, it seems like a delayed reaction, but there's sometimes it does get me thinking. But like, if there isn't a difference really between gems and cores, is it possible that like, and this might sound like stupid, but is it possible that gems are cores? Or vice versa, cores are gems? I always explain but like it's at the end there. It seemed like a gem is pretty much the same thing as a core, but like if they're not really that different, then could they be the same thing? Could they not be? I don't know. Maybe if there is like subtle differences maybe, but interesting.
was the best way she could put them to use. That is why in chapter 26, the last core of domination went missing between dimensions searching for a new vessel. To lure it out, Ado created a Solium clone of himself in which he implanted his memories from 1491, right after he won the Shixo Civil War and he was at his lowest point. Ado used this strange property of the current era Hersher cores to bait the last core of domination into a host it could not refuse. In the process of becoming a Hersher, the host will be opposed by what is called a Hersher persona, a consciousness that seems to be a split personality or some kind of new personality based on the vessel that is part of the core and tries to take over the body of the vessel. The conditions in which a Hersher persona forms can be different from Hershers to Hershers. Take Sirin for example. We know that she was guided by the will of the Honkai to awaken as a Hersher, but we never saw any Hersher persona within her. There is also the Hersher of Sentience. When the Hersher persona first awakened inside Fuhua's body, it was so overwhelmed by her memories that it failed to realize its own identity as a Hersher. Fuhua's influence was so big that even after realizing, she still chose to fight against the influence of the Honkai. In most cases, the human host will lose control eventually. We see this with Mei and Anna. Both fought hard to suppress their Hersher personas. As Mei noted in chapter 18, the fact that Anna was fighting the Hersher persona put her in a vegetative state and made her powers weaker. Mei didn't master her own Hersher powers until the Hersher persona inside her stopped resisting and left her in control of the core. This implies that the actual reason why we see some Hershers being weaker than others is that the vessel fights for control over the body and powers with the Hersher persona. We see the same with Kiana and HOV. It was never that Kiana couldn't master the powers of the void, it was because of the resistance put up by the other persona inside her that she could never tap into the full power of the core. Due to the records left by the previous era, we know that there are 14 Hershers within the Honkaiimpact 3rd universe. The current era seems to follow the same pattern as the previous era, with slight changes in the order they appear. That is not to be said that there can be more Hershers, but at least the Honkaiimpact 3rd universe seem to follow a fixed pattern. The current era Hershers have the same abilities as their previous era counterparts, with some alterations to make them more suited for the new environment. As more and more Hershers are born, these alterations grow bigger. Take the Hersher of Domination from the current era. It manifested itself very differently from its previous era counterpart, and it even had some abilities that the previous era Hersher of Dominance did not have. One of those abilities was to steal Hersher powers from other Hershers. It got this ability as it adapted to the current era, where many Hershers fight for humanity. In the previous era, there was no such thing, so this kind of ability was useless. In the current era, there are still some Herschers that have not appeared yet. Among them is the Hersher of Death. Even though Kiana has the Gem of Serenity, she has limited mastery over it, and even if Cele has the Hersher of Death stigmata, she has not awakened as a Hersher yet. We are also missing the Hersher of Binding, and no, Ado is not the Hersher of Binding. From my understanding of chapter 28, the Wheel of Honkai only granted him authority over the power of Binding, but as Teresa mentioned, no actual core has appeared. The Hersher of Corruption, and no, Sakura does not count. The only Hersher that we know nothing about and whose identity is still unknown is the third team. Wait, what are you doing here? Hey, you're not supposed to be here. Oh, man. Wait, what are you doing here? Hey, you're not supposed to
I
be
thought there
here.
might have been subtitles for
Oh man, she sure loves showing off. Almost like she's the Hersher of love or something.
不过，在你真正来到第13律者面前时，嗨，感觉如何？
And lastly, the final Hersher, the destroyer of worlds, the one that caused the doom of the previous era and probably the last and biggest threat our characters must face. I will point this out since many people commented on my previous videos. Yes, I know, she was never referred to as the Hersher of the End in official materials. She was always referred to as the final Hersher. Her name implies that there were no other Herschers after her since she managed to destroy human civilization. Herschers are some of the most important beings in the Honkaiverse. Every time one appears, the community is hype and celebrates because people know that they will bring great changes for both the story and the meta.
It's pretty sick. Alright. Very interesting video about the Hershers. Wait. First time I think in this playlist really we had Alicia be mentioned, and I was wondering if like that was coming, because one of the things I am looking forward to is maybe learning a little bit more about that and like that era of the game. The last one was about like older Bronya. I kind of thought I got the vibe that kind of stuff, that era happened after the Elysian Realm stuff. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it was before. Or maybe that was just like an extra video thrown in there. That was just something. I don't know. But yeah, definitely some very interesting videos. Lots of lore though. Lots of lore being dumped on me. Very cool to learn and understand more. But once again, sorry if I don't have like the absolute craziest reaction to some of these, because some of them it's just like mainly just learning information, and while it is I'll have like a comment here and there, a reaction here and there, and sometimes it's just me kind of like staring at the screen, so I'm sorry about that. I said that a few times during this playlist, so if, for those who already know the vibe, but just in case someone doesn't, I just want to always throw that in there. So now we got Understanding Auto Apocalypse, a splendidly written villain. So we got another auto video. Very interesting. Yeah.
Through all the media I consumed, only a few antagonists have had a lasting impact on me. Apocalypse
Honkaiimpact
is one of
third?
them. A clown that lost his own sense of self 500 years ago when his hero and love of his life died an unjust death caused by a world that did not deserve her. Welcome back, beautiful people. Today we're taking a deep dive into the character known as Apocalypse. And this sounded just as bad as I imagined. You may know him as an evil villain, a pitiful soul, or a fool that challenged fate and won. What made him such a brilliantly written antagonist? What was the main inspiration that Hoyoverse took when they created him? And what are the most common misconceptions regarding him? All of these questions will be answered in today's video. So, this is inside the mind of the greatest Hoyoverse villain, Apocalypse.
The mind was raised to me.
It should come as no surprise that people have very polarizing opinions about
I can see
Some
that, yeah.
respect him for his unwavering determination and the value he brings to the story, while others cannot forgive his wrongdoings. But no matter what opinion you
Yeah. I'm definitely more on the dislike for Otto. I can have some empathy for some stuff and some respect as just the villain side, but to me at the end of the day, man, he put these characters through a little too much sometimes. It just is a little too stoogey sometimes. So I'm definitely more on the dislike towards Otto.
have, I think it's valid, and nobody should tell you otherwise. I saw people arguing over Otto's morality while totally missing the point of his character. We, as humans, experience stories differently based on our own set of morals, past experiences, and personalities. Some people leave aside their personal feelings and enjoy the story for what it is, while others choose to look at the journey through the lens of their own values. Some can appreciate a character without sharing any perspectives, while others cannot stand them no matter how many redeeming qualities they have. Seeing people having a
If
different
I had a nickel for every time I've seen Will Smith in a Homu Labs Honkai video, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that happened twice.
opinion from yours is very normal.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
I love Otto as a character and have always looked forward to seeing him in the story because he made it more interesting. I'm the type of person that removes a lot of personal baggage when I'm immersing in a fictional story. I do not associate it with real life, so I don't judge characters that harshly based on my morals unless it's something really extreme and bad. Yes, I do not agree with a lot of stuff that Otto does. But that
mean,
is
he's
the
a good,
beauty
cool
of
villain.
fiction. We can like characters that our values and
I
morality
just
would
tend to
never
dislike the
allow
villain
us in
things,
real
though.
life. If Otto would be a real person, then yes, my stance on him and his actions would change drastically. I see people calling him a villain or a anti-hero. In my opinion, none fit his character. I call Otto an antagonist, a person who opposes the protagonist. An antagonist is neither good nor bad, just an opposing force to the main characters. But what about the title of the video then? I clearly call him a villain there. Well, duh. Villains sound so much catchier than antagonist. Give me a break. He manipulated and killed people that stood in his way, tempered in unethical experiments such as cloning and testing on Honkai-resistant children for the single goal of reviving the person who was his hero and gave meaning to his life, Kalen Kastlana. I often see people downplaying the relationship between the two by saying that Aro is just a simp or that he wants to revive her to be together as lovers. That shows a lack of understanding of how deep these characters actually are. Calling Aro a simp is like calling a lion just a big cat. Technically, you're right.
I was gonna say, I mean,
to better understand their
technical
relationship, we need to go back to when it all started.
time to go back.
While growing up, Aro was a sickly and fragile boy shunned by his family because of his condition and passion. In other words, his family were a bunch of. That's when he met Kallen. She was more than a friend or a love interest to him. Kallen was his hero, the first person to believe and expect things from him. To say that he loves her would be an understatement. For Aro, Kallen is above the world. His feelings are much more complex than just simple love. He never wanted to revive her to be together with her. In fact, he knew that he will die if his plan were to be realized. For Aro, humans, himself included, are sinners that caused the death of Kallen, who in his eyes encapsulated all the good and beauty in the world. No other lives mattered, and that's why he did all those atrocious things with so little remorse. And you may ask, why does he do all of this knowing that she would not want it? And here lies both the beauty and the ugliness of Aro. Yes, he knew that Kallen would rather be dead than have all the people he killed on her consciousness. He wanted to revive her because of selfishness. Not for her sake, but for himself and what he believes is right. Aro points out that his sense of self died with Kallen. He became a hollow husk of a person and wants to regain that part of himself that he lost with her death. He doesn't care about her feelings since his motivations have a deeply selfish root. Even while alive, he saw her less like a human with emotions and insecurities and more like a personification of the goodness and beauty. This is a common character trait for him. He never truly sees a human being as a person, but more like a personification of some abstract concept. There is very little individuality in his perception. This also brings me to my next point, the jester. Throughout the story, we see Aro associate with the persona of a jester on multiple occasions. Also, a very popular inside joke in the community is to meme on Aro and call him a clown. But what is a jester or a clown? Well, a jester is a member of the household of a nobleman or a monarch employed to entertain guests during the Renaissance eras. In short, a person that makes a fool of themselves for the entertainment of the others. In Aro's case, this symbolic persona has multiple meanings. First, it's meant to represent his self-hatred. No one hates Aro Apocalypse more than himself. He is surprisingly self-aware of the action he has done. He knows that he has done wrong, but his desire to revive Kallen is stronger than his common sense. He plays a fool to justify his self-hatred and to garner hatred from the others. When he talks, he always does so in a manner that provokes and attracts contempt. He wants to be a first-class a-hole. He wants to be hated because in his eyes, that's all he deserves. Also, have you noticed that he always wears a mask when he directly involves himself in a fight? This is also a symbol of him playing the role of the villain in those moments. Aro is also what many call a Shakespearean fool. We know that he encountered Shakespeare during his life, so this kind of connection is not surprising at all. Shakespearean fools are normal jesters that act in the same way as any other, only that they are very cunning. They play their roles to gather information, manipulate, and outdo people from higher social positions. Aro is no doubt a charismatic man that likes to manipulate the people around him into doing what he wants. And like a Shakespearean fool, he's always one step ahead because people always let their guard down around him. Speaking of fools, the best way for you not to become one is to subscribe to the channel if you haven't and give the video a thumbs up. Thank you very much, just like Ado, it really helps my shallow self-esteem. Honkaiimpact 3rd is a game that doesn't
Was that,
shy
cooking?
away from philosophical references, and
General
Ado
Kenobi.
as a character is no exception. For those of you familiar with the work of the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, the parallels between his work and Ado should be obvious. Nietzsche is best known for being a nihilist, which is an ideology that rejects the fundamental of human existence. Concepts such as morality and values are perceived as baseless and they see no meaning in existence. But contrary to popular belief, Nietzsche was not really a nihilist. His philosophy draws roots in nihilism, but he actually condemns it in his work. One such work is called Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Do you recognize the name? Yes, it's what inspired the title for Thus Spoke Apocalypse animated short. In fact, all the chapters in the Colostan arc are named after Nietzsche's work. Chapter 26 is The Birth of Tragedy, Chapter 27 is Twilight of the Idols, and Chapter 28 is Beyond Good and Evil. For this video though, we'll talk more about Thus Spoke Zarathustra, since that is more reflective of Ado's character. Nietzsche's book has a few concepts that tie closely to Ado's story and character. First are the last man, apathic humans that gave up on life and have no willpower left to take fate in their own hands. They reflect the way Ado sees humanity. From his perspective, everything wrong with humans is born from their complacence and dependence on concepts such as fate and God. A human that allows any form of conceptual power to dictate their life has no worth in his eyes and eventually will fall and succumb to hatred and greed. On the other hand, we have the Übermensch, which literally translates to superhuman. By contrast, these are humans that live their lives after their own morals and values. They represent grounded individuals that fight for their values in a world that has given up on any form of ideals. They believe that human willpower is the only thing that can bring change. Sounds familiar? If yes, maybe that's because this is basically Ado's character in a nutshell. A man that through the sheer force of his willpower does the impossible and overcomes conceptual limitations such as fate, that, and God. He was never complacent nor relied on a higher power to comfort him when Kallen died. Regardless if we agree with Nietzsche's work or not, we cannot deny how well crafted Ado is as a character. The writers had a clear philosophical base and moved him in the right direction to make use of his potential. Kudos to Hoyoverse. As a writer myself, call me impressed. In the same way that Kiana sees the world as a beautiful place worth fighting for, Ado sees it as an ugly place full of malice and unfairness that has little to no worth. The only thing beautiful enough to be pursued for him was Kallen. But even so, the two of them had surprisingly similar philosophies. While it's true that at a first glance they seem to be the total opposite of each other, if you look closely, you'll see that both Kiana and Ado act based on the same principle. They both fight for all that's beautiful in the world from their perspective. While Kiana's idea of beauty includes humanity with both the good and bad, Ado's idea of beauty is the goodness he saw in Kallen. For Ado, Kallen is all that's beautiful in the world. But he saw semblances of beauty in others too. In his final moments, he clearly cared about Teresa and had hopes and respect for people like Durandal, Kiana, Welt, and Fu Hua. He often mentions that these people carry Kallen's will, referring to the fact that he sees some of Kallen's beauty in them. Ado's plan was never to destroy the world as he wanted everyone to believe. He made a deal with the Wheel of Honkai to access the power of the imaginary tree, but in his own words, he was just a slave shackled by his physical form. That's why his plan was to lose from the very beginning. He threatened to destroy the world only to incentivize people to stop him while nurturing their growth at the same time. He threw Durandal into the Stigmata space, anticipating that she would master the powers of her Stigmata. He knowingly left the Abyss Flower for Cele to take it and heal Teresa, the only one capable of nullifying the binding powers. He made Fu Hua fight Li Sushang while being aware that her past is still haunting her, and he instructed Nagamitsu to tell Kiana about imaginary renormalization, an essential tool for his plan and their future fights against the Honkai. He often expressed that he needed the Herrscher of the Void to achieve his goal. People assumed that he needed Kiana to open up a path to the imaginary tree. And that's true, but not in the way that many people thought. He wanted Kiana to use imaginary renormalization on him to reach the ground zero of the imaginary tree. Only there he could truly realize his wish.
生きるんだ。
Ado decided that pursuing her goodwill was already too late. He was already painted in the colors of a villain, so he forced her to do it through the anger that originated from love.
For that clip.
Imaginary renormalization is a concept based on quantum physics. Think of the imaginary tree as an infinite source of power and our physical plane as a place with finite power. Ado connected to the imaginary tree, so he basically had a battery that never ran out. Unfortunately, because his body was still in the physical world, he could not use that power to do what he wanted. Imaginary renormalization is a process in which, for a short time, the infinite power of the imaginary tree and the finite energy of the physical plane swap places. This is achieved by a very precise type of space distortion only possible to the Herrscher of the Void. When Kiana used her powers on Ado in chapter 28, for a short moment, Ado lost his unlimited source of power, giving Kiana enough time to destroy his body. This allowed Ado to ascend to a metaphysical plane and free himself from the imaginary tree's control. He forced himself into a place that let him control the very fabric of the multiverse. There, he traded the energy of his own soul to create a new timeline where Kallen is alive.
これは別の未来。そして彼女の時空だ。
Remember this? Yes, now we finally know what it means. The Wheel of Honkai told Ado back then that he needed to die, aka trade his soul in exchange for a possibility to create a new timeline where Kallen is alive. If this is not magnificent foreshadowing, I don't know what it is. Ado believed that imaginary renormalization will also help Kiana and the others in their future fights against the Honkai. As we all know, Honkai is a servant of the imaginary tree, which is an infinite source of power. But now, Kiana knows how to cut off that power for a short time to, I don't know, seal it on the moon or something. I don't think people realize how important this is. Ado gave them a weapon against the Honkai while making sure each of them grows stronger and achieved his goal at the same time. What a madman.
一つ罪は歴史の中に埋もれ。
You may hate him or love him, but you can't deny that he was a brilliantly crafted character. A man who rose above the stereotypical portrayal of a villain, and despite how impossible his goal seemed, he achieved it. For me, characters like Ado are what makes fiction worth investing my time in. I always believe that the role of a good character is to stir up emotions in the eye of the audience, be it positive or negative. It doesn't matter. Art is about expression, about feeling, and Ado made us all feel something, god damn it.
Not wrong. Good character, regardless of villain, anti-hero, antagonist. Good character. So wait. Question time. When Otto did
Farewell, oh great inventor. See you in the next world.
Farewell. So, and Otto did that thing. He cut the he died and trade places with Teresa. Jeez. Trade places with Colin. Did Colin, like, was that like a different timeline then? Like, and then she like survived and not created a title without him in it, or did that pull her in it? That's why I kind of confused. And then Otto, like, he like died there. But yeah, another interesting video about Otto. Very nice video. Otto is a split, definitely very well written. I could kind of tell even without looking into it that he was there was going to be some mixed feelings about him, because I could see if you said you absolutely loved Otto, I could see that, because he is well written, he has some good motivations, and like he's just one of those villains that like has a bunch of aura to him. So you know, those always seem to like attract some fans. But I could also see someone, absolutely hating him because his actions do affect, a lot of the other cast, and it could be like your favorite character, like, you just, you're like kind of like me, and like you seem to like, when you invest in a story, you seem to just naturally like root against like the villain just for, just enjoyment purposes. Or just not like Otto's actions or Otto's like characters. I could see it either way, and yeah, describing Otto, that was a good one. Okay, though, it did take a little bit longer than I thought to get to this point, but I believe I'm going to go a little bit more. Either the next few one are at least a little bit shorter. They're up for a bit, but. We're gonna watch just a little bit more today. APO or APHO, Alien Space and the connection to Honkai Star Rail.
Into how a post-Honkai Odyssey and the Alien Space manga tie in with Honkai Star Rail. Little disclaimer, this is all information I found from the manga, in-game, and articles, as well as my own speculation and not indicative of the final product. Hi, I'm Ufi, and if you like this kind of content, feel free to subscribe and like this video. Let's get into it. A post-Honkai Odyssey starts 8 years after Kiana sealed 99% of the Honkai in the moon. There is still some Honkai energy left, however, the Valkyries and Herschers lost a lot of their powers. Mei is in charge of your team, and your objective is to find Welt Yang. The Sky People have attacked Saint Fontaine, and all the people have disappeared, and there is now a weird city floating in the sky. However, the Sky People have hacked all signals to show Saint Fontaine to appear as normal. Mei searches for Welt with the Honkai detector, but finds a child instead. The child is Joffrey, who is actually a clone of the first Herrscher, Welt Joyce, the Herrscher of Reason. Pause. Let's back up to why Joffrey is found hiding alone. So,
they love clones in Honkai.
Welt and Joffrey meet a man in a white suit in Saint Fontaine. When they meet, a bright light appears, and all the people and vehicles vanish, while mysterious monsters appear out of nowhere. While Welt Yang is fighting off a huge monster, Joffrey escapes to where you find him later. You soon hear Otto on the comms talking to a mysterious entity called Lucini. However, this is not Otto. This is Void Archives, the consciousness of the first divine key possessing an Otto Solium clone. This may sound confusing, but I'll make a video on that later.
Okay,
Just know
like
that Herrscher powers and divine keys no longer have the will of the Honkai and are pretty much just weapons now. Now, this is where the Alien Space manga comes in. This Void Archives Otto lookalike is who kidnapped Welt Yang. The Void Archives teleports with Welt to a space station, where the Void Archives explains that he has a beacon that the rest of the Sky People are following. He tells Welt that they have to go to the other side of the gate to stop the Sky People. On their way there, the Void Archives explains to Welt that the meteors they see are actually a form of transportation for scouts of the Sky People, and that all the monsters we see in Saint Fontaine are those scouts. After disguising as Sky People, Welt and the Void Archives find a way to shut down the Sky People's control hub and are left abandoned on the empty ship. But the Sugars save the day and decide to repay Welt's kindness by saving them and bringing them back to Earth. The Sugars are an alien race capable of dimensional travel that Welt Yang helps out in the Alien Space manga. We still don't know what happens after the Sugars bring Welt and the Void Archives back to Earth, but we can assume that this will be a backstory for future chapters. However, we do know at the end of Alien Space, Welt and the Void Archives does decide that they'll probably go help out this other world defend against the Sky People. And that's basically where we're left off at for Honkai Star Rail. We can assume Star Rail will be our journey across the stars, helping out worlds defend against the Sky People and the mysteries that come with them. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please give a like and post your theories or questions in the comments. I'd love to read them. Don't forget to subscribe, it really helps me out. And thank you so much for watching.
Very nice. There is a lot when it comes to Honkai, like with lore. It is very confusing. I don't know how some of these people do it, like put it together, like, because you gotta take, like manga stuff, game stuff, wiki stuff, I guess. Like, I don't even know where the other information comes from.
So I've been catching up the
like,
past
just
week.
really like in-depth looks. Like, it is crazy. So shout out to these videos. I'm trying to follow the best I can. Even me, I'm still getting a little lost at times, so bear with me. But hey, it's cool to learn. It's cool to learn. And we're back with Potato Almanac. It's another person I need to hit the sub for. I haven't in a bit. For whatever reason, I just forgot to. I'll post Honkai Odyssey and Honkai.
So I've been
Fourth.
catching up the past week, and in that time, I got the chance to play Post Honkai Odyssey, one of the open world mode for Honkai. After experiencing the story, it left me with many questions, a lot of which still remain inconclusive till this day. Stuff like, did Kiana die or something? And what about Bronya? Who or what is Luciani that Otto's look-alike talk to? Is this thing even canon? Some of the questions I will attempt to answer today, along with how they can possibly be a prelude to the next installment of Honkaiimpact. In case anyone have forgotten, here's a quick rundown of PHO. We pick up 8 years since most of the Honkai was somehow sealed on the moon. We don't know who did it or how it was achieved, but we do know that the world have been gradually rebuilding after the event. Most characters that appear in PHO are from Shixo. Shixo in this setting is led by Teresa, who took over after Otto somehow died.
So this came out like before some of this stuff was revealed, like that Kiana sealed it on the moon and Otto died with like the way he did. And so a post Honkai Odyssey came out, I guess, earlier than I thought. I thought that kind of came out after the main story that kind of wrapped up. Interesting.
Also, because most of the Honkai was sealed on the moon, people that use Honkai energies lost most of their power. This includes Valkyries and Herschers like Welt Yang and Mei. We play as an unnamed male protagonist who's taking part in an investigation by Shixo. The team, consisting of Yu, Mei, and a new character, Carol, was sent to track down and rescue Welt Yang, who went missing in Saint Fountain, a newly built bustling city. However, when the team arrived, they realized that Saint Fountain had somehow become a city not populated by humans, but by atrocious monsters. Your team would learn more about these abominations as the story went on, and after a while, you caught wind of a transmission between a mysterious something named Luceni and someone who sounded exactly like Otto. But as the team would soon learn, that's not Otto, but the first divine key. You know that sentient weapon Otto used to mimic various weapons? Yeah, that one. Turns out the first divine key is the one who kidnapped Wilt, and your team would spend the rest of the story trying to get to him. Anyways, at the end, the team failed to catch up and was severely wounded. So that's the rundown. Let's tackle all the common questions. First, what happened to Kiana? The common belief was that Kiana sealed the Honkai on the moon, using herself as the seal. This is considering the fact that the name Kiana is the name of the moon goddess mentioned in the Bible. While her name can mean other things like divine or heavenly, the series often refer to her as someone related to the moon. While this notion seems reasonable, it wouldn't quite make sense why Kiana would sacrifice herself after what we have witnessed in the few recent chapters, where Kiana doesn't fancy the act of sacrificing oneself for so-called victories. The dialogue that talked about Kiana in PHO went like this. A certain squad member's action reminded Mei of her old friend, which she missed very much. At the end, she gave a soft, wistful smile. In an interview back when Genshin Impact recently released, there's a section on the future of Honkaiimpact 3rd. And I quote the interview, "It will take 3 years to tell the story of Honkaiimpact 3rd on Earth. After that, the story is likely to be where future characters roam from planet to planet and meet many strange aliens." You may be seeing where I'm going with this. Yes, I believe the future characters mentioned here will include Kiana, who's away from Earth traveling to various planets, and we will probably see her as a returning character in Honkai 4th. So what are the evidence I have to back up this claim? Well, there's already a setup for this in the form of the manga Alien Space, which dealt with the events after PHO. From reading it, we learned that the thing codenamed Luceni refers to the Sky People. Think of them as space colonizers who's after the Honkai. The monster we see in post-Honkai Odyssey were actually their invading force, covertly setting up a forward base for a full-blown invasion of Earth, and also the extraction of the Honkai sealed on the moon. We saw that at the end of PHO, the team seemed to have thrown out the Sky People from Saint Fountain. But you see, turns out the first divine key was a double agent that was trying to sabotage the Sky People. To his credit, he did succeed, though I prefer not having the team go through unnecessary pain. Anyways, the Sky People plan to invade various planets in different dimensions. You probably have heard about the imaginary tree before. Basically, it says that parallel universes exist. At the end of Alien Space, we see a setup for a new journey between galaxies, which lines up pretty well with what we've got from the interview. Post-Honkai Odyssey did not explicitly give us what exactly happened to Kiana or Bronya. In the case of Kiana, it's either that she went missing, died, or have left to travel somewhere far away, perhaps to other planets. But for Bronya, unfortunately, she's never mentioned, so her fate is still unknown. Some people might say that Post-Honkai Odyssey isn't canon to the main storyline and instead a parallel universe. This is rather unlikely considering the follow-up manga to PHO is listed as main comics that also has real backstory implications to characters such as Himiko. Keep in mind, the release of Post-Honkai Odyssey was around the same time we caught wind of MiHoYo trademarking Honkaiimpact 4, codename Galaxy, and recently this month, Star Rail, suggesting that maybe a sequel for Honkai could be in development at this moment. Personally, I wouldn't expect.
I didn't know that. I didn't know it was Honkai. It was like codenamed Honkaiimpact 4.
Anything about Honkai 4 until we have finished what we have for Honkai's first storyline. I hope you guys at least learned something new today. If you got any questions or you see that I got something wrong, feel free to put it down below. I'm planning to do a review on the Hershey of Domination arc once I have get around to playing it myself. Until then, that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you next time.
Interesting. Open world, a post-Honkai Odyssey, new chapter. So this is, I believe, the trailer. Yeah. Alright, yeah, well, just these two short videos here. Next.
Is allowed to be born.
So like the silver wing Romeo is here. Oh, this is post Honkai Odyssey 2. Launching early 2022. Almost 3 years ago.
I am the spy.
A big step forward.
You again. Oh, she took off her head. What the hell? Oh, she changed. Woo!
Oh.
Yeah, I've been enjoying APHO 2 very much since it released. This update brings in newer technologies to improve the open world experience along with a new area that gives off a different vibe to what we are used to in the first part. In this video, I will talk about my first few hours of experience and my thought on it. The most important aspect of Honkai open world apart from the combat is the stage itself. This time, APHO takes us to Saint Fountain, just a different area, but set in daytime, which kinda exposes the age of the game quite a bit more compared to the nighttime setting of the first. Even though this update brought many graphical and technological improvements like higher quality geometry and more destructibles, it seems like hiding the age gap becomes much harder, especially when looking at objects far away, which has been exacerbated by the larger map. But this doesn't matter too much because you would mostly be focused on objects in front of you anyway, and also some of the footage I'm using in this video was recorded on low settings because I didn't know that APHO 2 setting was separate from the main game, which is a smart move because I'm pretty sure that playing this for any time longer than 5 seconds will set fire to any of your devices. Looking from the outside, APHO 2 seems less intense aesthetically because compared to the dark crimson red sky during a rain from the first part, the bay area of the second with its brighter and greener scenery just gives off a lighter vibe, which I don't believe is a bad thing as a change of scenery is more than welcomed. Anyway, I also want to talk about the combat, which is
nice.
Like, my favorite has been Timido because of her one-of-a-kind fighting stance. She got one of the most unique animation out of any characters even in the main game, and she still feels fluid to play even if she's spinning and moving around at Mark II. The combat generally follows the same formula from the first part, but still manages to feel distinct, mostly due to the roster in the second part being wildly different gameplay-wise. We never had a real range attack in the first part, nor do we had any real crowd control, which are both a big combat aspect in the second part, which also brings me to the next point. You know that we get a roster of 3 plus 1 support, which is basically the same as the first part, by which I mean that we only have 3 characters to choose from, making these slots exist just to arrange the order of your party members. So I would love to see a bigger roster to diversify our playstyle, which I've heard will be the case. Initially we have 3 playable characters and 1 support. These are your boy, Bronya herself, and Timido Cute. That's not me giving her an adjective, it's her name. And lastly, the support person, Liar.
Yeah.
Excluding the support, each characters in the roster have their own unique aesthetics while fighting and moving around, like Bronya using her flying weapon to lift her up. This might be me needing to get used to the new game mode, but the enemies this time around seem more fierce. They attack faster, more ferociously, which has made me feel like the combat here is even more intense than the last time. It could also be the product of the soundtrack, like, just listen to this. With that said, in the usual fashion, you can't exactly rush through the story, which is understandable I guess. You don't want people to like speedrun this in a single day. Level 10? Jesus. Anyway, APHO 2 has improved on the open world formula by combining the latest technologies that elevates the experience, whether it's the more dynamic cutscenes, quality of life features, or the fresh gameplay offered by new roster members. Now, I'm really excited to see what will come next for this open world, and I'd love to hear your thoughts so far on APHO 2 in the comments down below. But until then, that has been it for today. Have a great one.
Thank you. Whoa, wait. That'll be for next time. Thank you, Potato Almanac. Alright, yeah, I think that is gonna do it for me today. Pretty big one today, you know, we went a bit over time again. Hopefully that is alright. I mean, it does take me a while nowadays to get out these videos, so maybe a little bit extra time wouldn't be that bad, especially you can always pause and come back later if it is ever too long. But yeah, we got a lot of nice ones from Homu Labs. We got a lot of information, and then we got a few Potato Almanac ones as well. And then Ufi TV, one video from her. I think that is the first one, but that was a pretty good video. And then we had just one video from the actual Honkai Impact. There was like a trailer of a post Honkai Odyssey 2, which learned a little bit more about that, and having some other pieces for the play. Little stuff, but some of the bigger stuff like more like lore things about the Hershers and the Will of the Honkai, and some really like deep lore stuff as well. Which is really cool. It is really cool. And I'm sorry if I yawned at any point. I know this is random. If I yawn, I'm not sure if I did. Sometimes I do it subconsciously. If I yawn at any point, I'm sorry. It might be 3 in the morning. It's actually 5 in the morning. Sleep is for the weak. But so yeah, I'm sorry. It wasn't boredom. I promise. If there was any yawns, so yeah, it's some very interesting stuff. Thank you all for watching and for adding any information in the comments. Some things really helping me out understand all this a bit, because it can be kind of confusing. There's a lot to the lore, and I'm excited for learning it. Hopefully you guys are too, and are enjoying this journey of me learning more about Honkai stuff, watching some more Honkai stuff. There's just so much out there to learn and watch, and shout out to everyone I've been watching from and this playlist and everything, and yeah, we'll be back next time or the time after that. I don't exactly have a plan of what I'm doing quite yet, but I just know that there are some other things to get to as well. From this playlist, there's like the trailer stuff. I'm a little eager to see what got updated from that, and but continuing going with this is something as well. For now though, guys, I think that is going to do it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like or dislike, subscribe or don't subscribe. It's always up to you. I will see you guys in the next video. You watch with me. Goodbye.